Well, a parent expects their child to be safe on a school bus, and that includes having a driver who's not under the influence of alcohol or drugs.
But the Fox 9 investigators have uncovered problems with this system that's supposed to keep drivers clean. We get the disturbing details from Jeff Ballion.
When a school bus crashes into some trees near Winona, the driver blames the kids on board for distracting him.
Well, what happened?
Just got sucked off the road.
Okay.
I looked up at the mirror, told the kids to sit down, and by the time I looked back down, it was
too late already.
Yeah.
Okay.
But a sheriff's deputy notices the driver struggles to keep his balance. His eyes are watery and his breath reeks.
I understand you had a few to drink.
I had two glasses of wine.
2 glasses? Doubtful. He blows a .127 on a preliminary breath test. In Minnesota, it's illegal to drive a school bus with any alcohol in your body.
How can this happen? I mean, this day and age, this shouldn't be happening. I mean,
Joe Weirden still gets angry thinking about the scare that happened a few years back in Egan. The bus his daughter was riding went off the road and rammed a motorhome parked in a driveway.
as I'm pulling up, I can see the bus driver, they got him out doing a sobriety test. And I'm like, really? A sobriety test at 2 in the afternoon and you're driving kids?
That driver blew a .105.
How is this guy able to get on a bus being that drunk?
The driver told police he had a few the night before.
I just came around the corner and next thing I noticed it was a snowbank.
These cases are disturbing. Thankfully, no one was hurt. But they highlight why school bus drivers are required to undergo random drug and alcohol testing throughout the year. It's supposed to act as a deterrent for the estimated 5% of drivers who may have a substance abuse problem. But a Fox 9 investigation reveals some Minnesota school districts failing to meet even the most basic requirements designed to protect kids.
I'm so upset. I can't even think straight right now.
We obtained records which show major problems in the Bloomington district. An inspection this school year by the State Patrol found alarming deficiencies in the district's testing program.
It's definitely concerning and something that needs to be addressed.
For starters, Bloomington hired 8 drivers and put them to work before giving them a federally mandated pre-employment drug and alcohol test.
How crazy is that?
They drove for 3 months until anyone realized they'd never been screened. And no one checked to see if they'd flunked a drug or alcohol test at a previous employer, which the law mandates too.
There should be people losing their jobs for that.
Carrie Pearson wishes the district would have given this information to families like hers. Her granddaughter rides a Bloomington bus to kindergarten.
We should know right away.
Bloomington also failed to test any of its drivers during the entire third quarter of 2015. The law requires random testing throughout the year.
All the kids in Minnesota deserve to be safe.
When Bloomington did test, records show it was doing so on a somewhat predictable schedule, a serious flaw.
It needs to be unannounced and reasonably spread out throughout the quarter, so the drivers shouldn't know when it's coming.
In December, a Bloomington driver was given a random test after dropping off elementary students in the morning. The results showed an alcohol level of .027. Remember, any amount for a school bus driver is illegal in Minnesota. That driver was charged with a DWI.
I'm irate. I'm without words.
Carrie Pearson has good reason to be upset.
I lost my son to a drunk driver in November, and I'm raising his 5-year-old daughter who takes the Bloomington bus to and from school every day.
No one from the school district would go on camera to answer questions about its testing program. But in a prepared statement said, we corrected the issues with the implementation of new procedures to ensure our practices are aligned with state and federal statutes. Bloomington isn't the only district to run into trouble with regulators. A 2014 inspection in Minneapolis found some drivers who got picked for random testing were allowed to go on their morning routes before having to provide a urine sample. That left a 4 to 6 hour gap for them to potentially find a way to cheat.
You hear about the Whizzinator or other devices, or somebody might go talk to somebody else, hey, can you give me a sample, and try to, get that into the testing site and provide somebody else's sample for them.
Last year, inspectors discovered the Bagley School District in northwest Minnesota was giving drivers advance notice of when tests were coming. Both Minneapolis and Bagley say they've corrected the problems.
If that's going on, that's bad.
If you're wondering how often school bus drivers flunk a drug or alcohol test, the answer is We don't know. School districts and their transportation companies don't have to make that information public. In fact, they don't even have to alert law enforcement when a driver tests positive.
And that's just a no-brainer.
The Fox 9 investigators surveyed 25 school districts and asked if any had drivers fail a drug or alcohol test in the past 3 years. These 6 responded by saying yes. 3 had a driver test positive for marijuana, 1 for cocaine, 2 for alcohol, and 1 an unspecified drug.
Somebody's got to do something about this. It's crazy. Our children's lives are in these people's hands.
Some of those drivers were fired immediately, others put through a substance abuse program and returned to work, which is allowed by law as long as they stay clean.
But in any of those cases, were law enforcement officials notified?
Well, we know of at least 2 they were not. But again, the law doesn't require the school districts or the transportation companies to notify law enforcement. So you have this dilemma. State law says a driver with any alcohol in their system, illegal. But if they don't hear about it, nothing happens.
Boy, troubling.
Eye-opening.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeff.